Hey guys, Tammy here, and in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 simple tips to impress your custody judge. Okay, now, who doesn't want to impress their custody judge? Like, if you're going into court, you very much want to impress your judge. And here's the good news. It takes very little to stand out, right? It's kind of like the workforce today. Like, I feel like we hear that a lot, that it takes very little. Most people are not willing to put in effort or not willing to go the extra mile. It takes very little effort to make yourself stand out. And I feel like the same is true in court. A lot of people stand out in a bad way, right? They're memorable because they upset the judge, right? They tick them off, and then the judge remembers them. That's not how we want to be remembered. We want to be remembered because we impressed the judge with our demeanor and our conduct and our process and our knowledge and all of those things. Before I give you those, let me just remind you, if you like this content, don't forget to hit like on my video and also subscribe to the channel so that you get notified as new videos are released. And also, please share on social media so that we can reach as many people as we can dealing with these kinds of issues. Now, the first thing I'll tell you, and this is just a little like kind of side bonus tip, and this is kind of where it all starts. Go watch court. Go watch your judge. Hearings are public. Family law hearings are public. Now, occasionally they can be closed if they're going to talk about something that they feel is sensitive or whatever. But family law hearings are public and you can go watch. And some of them you can watch on, online, on Zoom or on whatever, but most of them at the very least you can go and attend in person, even if you can't attend online. I know that here in San Diego, they've had some restrictions because they've had some people getting into proceedings that, were disruptive or shouldn't have been there or whatever. And so I think they have kind of cracked down on that a little bit in some jurisdictions, but for the most part, hearings are public and you're able to attend. Honestly, that can give you more help, more insight, more heads up on your judge than almost anything I could tell you. Okay, so it's a really good way, especially if you're self-represented, to just be able to go when things are calm and it's not your case and you're not having anxiety, and be able to really absorb what's going on around you, how the judge reacts to different things people say, how the judge reacts to self-represented people versus people that have an attorney, all those kinds of things. Now, the 5 tips are this. The very first thing you want to do is wait your turn. Okay, usually the person that filed the motion gets to go first and then the other side. So if you're not first and the other side is, whether they have an attorney or don't or whatever, you're going to wait your turn. You're not going to interrupt. That will get you in the doghouse faster than almost anything, okay? There's a certain decorum that happens in the courtroom and you have to follow that decorum. There's a certain kind of etiquette and you need to know what that is and make sure that you're following that. So when it's the other person's turn to talk, what I always tell people is have a notepad and pen with you so that if they say something that you feel like you need to respond to, you can make a little note about it. And then when it's your turn to talk, you'll be able to speak to it. Then you've gotten to address it. You haven't had to interrupt. You haven't made your judge mad. And boom, you've solved the problem. Okay. So wait your turn. The second thing I will tell you is be brief. Oh Lord, be brief, be concise, be high picture, be brief. I don't know how much more to say it. Look, this is part of what attorneys are trained on, right? They learn how to tell the story in kind of a high level way so the court can kind of grasp it. When I initially talk to clients, a lot of times what I'll do is, what I say to them is, I need to ask you some basic questions first, because they'll want to launch right into their story. And this is what they do in court too. And I always say, look, let me ask you some basic things. How many kids you got? How long you been divorced? Where do you live? What's your current parenting schedule? What's, what do you have court date pending now? Certain key pieces of information that I need to kind of build the outline for me, if you will, in my brain. And then once the outline is built, then I can start to kind of attach little details to it. Like, okay, there's 2 kids and the younger one doesn't want to go. Okay, dad's got, a heavy work schedule and can't always do his weekends. Mom is a recovering alcoholic and has, fallen into relapse. Whatever it is, like those kind of more granular details have to come after I have a basic framework, a basic picture of the situation and what's going on. So what you're trying to paint for your judge in that first instance is a basic overall outline, okay, not a detailed narrative. That's your written declaration that you did to the court. That's your detailed narrative. You want to give the court a big picture, kind of summary overview, okay? They've already read your declaration probably, so you just want to kind of refresh their memory. And if you talk too long, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get cut off. Judge is going to cut you off. And here's why. Not because they don't care, not because you're irrelevant or whatever, or they hate you for some reason or whatever. It's not any of those things. It's that this judge generally has about 10 to 15 cases on their morning calendar and 10 to 15 cases on their afternoon calendar. Okay. Court usually runs from about like maybe 8:30 or 9 until about 11:30 with a 15-minute break in between. Okay. So what is that? Like 2.5, maybe 3 hours at best if we're lucky. And I have 15 cases. So you take 180 minutes, which is 3 hours max, and divide it by 15 and tell me what you get. I get 12 if I'm doing that right. I am a math person, so let's hope I can do that in my head. 12, okay? 12 minutes per case, not even per person. Not 12 minutes for opposing counsel to talk and 12 minutes for you to talk. 12 minutes total conversation. You, the other side, the judge, the whole 9 yards. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. If you get cut off, it's because you're taking too long. This is why I tell people, stay concise, stay high picture, because if you don't, you won't get it all in. You'll end up not being able to say certain things. Better to give a high level picture at first and then be able to fill in some details if you have a little bit more time than to get started on your long narrative and get cut off before you even got to something important. Okay, and normally what happens is this. If the other side goes first and then you're concise, and then the other side speaks again a little bit after you said whatever, a lot of times after that, if you want to say something else, if you've been concise the first time, you can say, Your Honor, can I just address one quick thing that they said? Or can I just address 2 quick things that they said? I'll be really fast. And the court kind of goes in their brain, well, they were really concise the first time. They only took a few minutes. They were very respectful of the court's time. Okay, I'm going to let them say something again. But if you went on and on and on and on that first time and they had to cut you off, they're going to say, no, I've heard all I need to hear. And they're not going to give you that opportunity because they have to move cases through. They don't have a choice, okay? The third thing is don't get emotional or take things personal. I have so many times where people let their emotions get the better of them in court. And for the most part, I find judges don't like that. I do have a lot of clients that come back and say, oh, this person or that person cried and that influenced the judge and all that. I mean, honestly, a lot of times we interpret that something influenced the judge that really wasn't the issue. Usually if I dig deeper with the client, it's like I can see why the judge made the decision they made. I can understand the judge's logic. I can drill down into it. And it's probably not because somebody cried on the stand or whatever it was. So usually if you get emotional, you're getting hysterical, you're getting worked up, you're talking faster, you're talking more, you're doing all those kinds of things. So try to keep yourself calm, take a deep breath, try to disconnect from this process emotionally as much as you can, especially if you're self-representing. You need to go in there as your own lawyer, essentially, not as mom or dad, right? If you're going in as mom or dad, that carries the weight of those emotions of being mom or dad, right? If you can sort of get in more of like a logical type brain of like, okay, how would an attorney approach this? What would they do? How would they say this? And you kind of put yourself in that mindset, it'll help you control the emotional aspect a little better. It's kind of like I don't know if any of you sing. Okay, I sing on worship team. Thomas and I sing on worship team. And when I'm in church sometimes, if I am thinking about the lyrics of what I'm singing, I'll start crying, right? I start getting moved emotionally, which is good in church, right? It's like you want to connect with that and have that experience or whatever. But if I'm trying to control it because I want to sound better, or I don't want to be a distraction to somebody else's ability to worship because I'm crying or whatever, then I kind of try to get more in my head of like, how is my blending? Am I on pitch? Am I, matching the tone of the other people singing and kind of the technical aspect of singing as opposed to more feeling it? I think there's benefits to each of those, but if you need to get out of your heart and into your head to keep yourself from crying so that your performance is better, and if you sing, you know what I mean when I say that. Court is the same kind of thing. You got to get out of your heart, out of your mommy or daddy heart, and get into your head, into your logic of what's the information that you're trying to present in this situation. Okay. The next thing you want to do is be child focused. Okay. Everything needs to be presented as how it affects the child, not what the other parent is or isn't doing to you. The other person is, they never show up because they just don't care about their kid, as opposed to, well, they don't show up very consistently because they work really hard. And unfortunately, it's really hard on the child because they have an expectation and then the other parent doesn't show up and they're very disappointed and it's very difficult for the child emotionally, right? Two totally different contexts of the exact same problem. So you want it to be child focused. And then number 5, which is kind of the counterpart to this, don't attack your ex. So again, don't make things about what a bad person they are or whatever. Make it about how it impacts the child and how that can be dealt with, in a way that would benefit the child. All right. So there's your 5 tips. Wait your turn, be brief, don't get emotional, be child focused, and don't attack the other person. That's Tammy's 5 simple tips to impress your judge. Honestly, if you can do those 5 things, you will be head and shoulders above almost everybody else that comes in front of the court that day. That isn't an attorney, but half the time, even that is an attorney. Okay, a lot of attorneys haven't even learned this, especially if they're younger and not as experienced practicing and all that kind of thing. So there are your 5 tips. If you would like to learn more about my coaching services and how I might be able to support you on this journey, please go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. There's a link on that page where you can book a time to speak to a member of my staff and learn about my services and how I might be able to help you. All right. See you guys next time. We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands.